Welcome to week 12 of What's the Call, where I'm here with E. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. And what an exciting rivalry week we had. Week 14 in college football, wrapping things up. Um, Definitely interesting one. A lot of big games. Go ahead, get into those, and then obviously get into our clips, and then we'll look ahead into the future at championship games and college football playoff bracket and who we feel has the best opportunity to win it all, or even just to try and make it in.
Yeah,
Cool.
we had a great last week of football. All the rivals were out. There's some games that weren't as good as we thought going in, and there's some that surprised, and then there are some storylines that were also amazing too. That I think made this rivalry week even better than years before. Just how many coaching things were going
Yeah.
on and coaching carousel and seasons ending for certain teams and certain teams not getting coaches. We would go into that a little bit later too. But no, so Friday we had a few good games. I was fortunate enough to be at the Georgia Tech game in Atlanta, which was a defensive slugfest, surprisingly.
Yeah, that was a
Uh,
close one.
Gunnar Stockton probably had his worst game of the year besides Austin P. And Haynes King couldn't really do anything because this is the first real defense they played all year. And Georgia's defense is peaking at the right time. So it was sloppy. I will say, um, Georgia did go ultra conservative in the second half and just decided to kind of just run the ball um, over and over again. They kind of just took the passing game out of his hands once they realized Georgia Tech wasn't going to score a touchdown. And so it was a pretty boring game in terms of entertainment factor. But Georgia gets another win over Georgia Tech and Brent Key, which that makes him more mad every year, as he still refuses to say Georgia's name, because he's kind of a weirdo. But anywho, Georgia Tech kind of imploded at the end of the season. This is just one of those games for Georgia where
Yeah.
just win it. That's all you need to do. Just win it and move on. All your season's still ahead of you. And for Georgia Tech, this was something they had to have, and they couldn't get it done. That
Yeah.
day also we had the Egg Bowl, Lane Kiffin's last game with Ole Miss, as it turned out to be. Ole Miss dominated this game.
Yep.
Mississippi State's a team with no defense. They can't stop the run, can't stop the pass, and Kamario Taylor is not a very finished passer yet. So they're going to have to work on that all season to get him there. Um, that was after about the midway through the second quarter. You could tell that game wasn't going to be a game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
No, not too much. I was routinely kind of checking in on that game. And I figured, yeah, by like the second quarter, Ole Miss looked like they had everything under control. For Mississippi State, at least they got one SEC win this year. I think that's improvements.
yeah,
Um,
but a lot of close.
but
Well, they were in a lot of
uh,
close games.
a lot of close games, and
A lot of
if we
close
go
games.
back to what was that? That Texas game they played where they went all the way, took them to like two overtimes, three overtimes. I forget what it was, but again, yeah, a lot of close games. So Mississippi State is definitely, you know, I would say improving. They should at least be a little better next year too, and hopefully they get to a point where they are back in the mix for the SEC. I always felt like when Mississippi State was good. Mississippi State and Michigan State, like comparatively, I feel like are kind of the same relative to their conferences. When those teams are both good, football tends to be more fun to watch. Or maybe I'm just going off a nostalgia factor, but I just always
A
felt
little
like
bit.
you add Michigan State to the mix of the big guys. Big Ten's a lot more fun to watch, and then I always felt like Mississippi State was usually up there too,
Yeah,
fighting
definitely
for
have.
it. But yeah, other than that, no more thoughts. Rolling into the late
We have
night game,
yeah, Texas
Texas. Yeah.
A&M.
Hmm.
A&M. I think we were saying this a few weeks ago. This is the first team they played in the top half of the SEC, and they got handled,
Yeah. Yeah, they
especially in that
did.
second half.
Yeah.
So that's not good. I know it's a rivalry
No.
game, and but that I know people are saying A&M is a good team, but I think they're on serious fraud watch from now on. just based on the
Yeah.
fact the first real team you played, you got dominated for a whole half. Um,
Yeah.
Texas just put it on them in that second half, and A&M couldn't really do anything about it. So that would make me a little nervous if I'm an A&M fan because from now on, you're playing teams to Texas's caliber or
Or better.
higher,
Yeah.
besides maybe getting a mid-major in the first round
Yeah.
in the playoffs. So you got to bring it. There's no more bad games. You can't have that anymore, or your season's going to be over.
Yeah.
So good on Texas. A little too late to be playing like this now. If you're a Texas fan, you probably want to see this a while ago.
Yeah.
Um, there's really nothing they can do to get in the playoff now. There's too many
No, yeah.
teams in front of them, and I know you are upset. You scheduled at Ohio State. A, don't lose to Florida. That take
Yeah.
care of itself. You're a two-loss team. B, you were ranked ahead of Ohio State. Go win that game. I know Ohio State's a good team, but you were supposed to win that game. So don't come out slow. Go win that game. So I don't know. I don't understand the fact that we're going to play this hard game. You're calling yourself one of the best teams in the country, so you shouldn't be scared to play anybody. You should think you can go win all those games, and you didn't. You lost the game. So it just is what it is at this point. Um, so I mean, they did beat Vanderbilt too. They had Oklahoma, they A&M. They had some good wins, but they also almost had some horrific losses too. So it's warranted for them not to be in the playoff. But a great win to close out the season. You beat your rival. Arch Manning starts looking good going into next year. So yeah, I think overall you have something to look forward to, but it was still a disappointment of a year, knowing what could have been. Then we
Yeah.
won't even. I mean, Indiana played Purdue that night too, and that Indiana has a specialty of running it up on teams that aren't very good. So that's what they did.
Yeah. So Indiana will get their first real test of the season against Ohio State this weekend
Yep,
on
on Saturday.
Saturday, and we'll see how that goes. And kind of back to Texas A&M. Um, I feel like A&M will drop definitely several spots. I think they'll bump Georgia, of course, over them. I think they'll bump Texas Tech will go over them. Ole Miss, I feel like will go like I think all those teams are better than Texas A&M. That's just my personal opinion. That game went about how I expected. We've been
Mhm,
calling, I feel like Texas A&M on Fry Watch. We've been putting it on Fry Watch pretty much
mhm.
halfway through the season. Uh, and yeah, so that game went out how I expected. Now, if they're able to get a group of five team in the first round of the playoff, then good for them. They'll at least advance to the second round. But if they actually have to play, a top 10 team, it's, I don't know if I see them making it past that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Well, that's why we play the games.
yeah,
Looking forward to seeing
um,
it.
I guess
Yeah, and then
wrapping
moving
up
into that
Friday a little bit.
yeah, that Friday night we had Arizona State. Game didn't really have much uh impact on the college football playoff. They beat Arizona State with Jeff Sims playing QB. So good job, Arizona. Congratulations. Moving into Saturday, we had the game. Michigan was pretty outmatched from the beginning. The only real story here was kind of just the mental edge they've had over the past few years. But you could tell talent-wise, Michigan's been kind of a fraud team this year too, skating by all these Big Ten teams. Having your second string running back go out to and playing an academic scholarship guy is not going to do you any good either. Playing against one of the best defenses in the country, so that game was kind of doomed from the start. Ohio State was just a better team. Um, that there was nothing a mental edge could do here. Ohio State could easily just kind of walk through and took care of that game. There's just another Big Ten game for them. I think Michigan tried to make it something bigger than it was, and Ohio State just took care of business.
Yeah. Finally, those first two drives scared, I won't lie, scared the shit out of me. I felt like that was literally a repeat of last year, where Michigan comes out, gets a big run, comes down, kicks a field goal, and then Sayan on his second throw throws a pick in our
Yeah,
in our territory, and I'm like, oh, crap, not this again. But they got their stuff together. Um, I said the key going into this game was make Bryce Underwood throw the ball.
yeah, he couldn't do it.
If we
They don't
stop the
have any
run,
weapons.
Yeah, if we stop the run, Bryce Underwood's not going to be able to throw the ball,
Yeah,
and
he can't throw.
you could clearly see that.
Dave Portnoy spent $12 million for a quarterback that can't throw.
Yeah,
That there's a lot of questions around Michigan now. I know you lost a few
yeah,
running backs, but having Justice Haynes wasn't going to do anything in that game either. Your defense was pretty toast, and your offense could not. You're not going to beat a good team. Any of the teams in the top five, um, or top five defense: Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, even I'll throw Texas Tech in there, Oregon.
yeah,
You're not going to beat those teams being one dimensional. If you just line up and try to run it 30 times and knowing they can't throw, you're not going to score. You're a lot of times not going to
yeah,
score a touchdown, which is what happened.
yeah,
So I don't know what Michigan was expecting that game, but not as soon as they weren't able to throw and they became one dimensional. That game was just taken out of the window for Michigan. I know they've kind of done it in the past, but that was also when you had some sort of a passing game and you had such a dominant running game that it almost didn't matter, which they don't have this year. So that it
yeah,
just that game is kind of just what it was, and Ohio State just kind of eased through like they
yeah,
have the rest of their games.
yeah. And I think honestly, again, their biggest test will be on Saturday against Indiana.
Well,
Indiana is definitely a good football team. Now you might say, well, Texas was it? I'm always wary about the very beginning of the season just because everybody's figuring out the system, new play calls, new players, team chemistry is just always lacking. Um, so so I really think their first big test will be again this Saturday.
yeah,
But
I'm not too even sold on Indiana yet. I know we'll get more of that later, but I mean they did play Oregon a while back and they beat
yeah,
Oregon.
yeah,
But Oregon's a pretty flawed team too, so I don't know really how. I don't know how much I'm sold on Indiana yet. So this is almost as much of a test for them as it is for Ohio State this weekend.
yeah. Uh, Heading in to the rest of the games, Texas Tech handled business as we saw. They should win the Big 12 pretty easily and have a solidified spot in the college football playoff. Oregon handled business too against Washington. They completely dominated that game. Washington, I think, just they have quarterback issues. He's a good quarterback, but he's he's small. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
the
not,
lines of scrimmage for Washington. There's a glaring difference.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, Oregon just made more plays to win. Oregon was the better team. You could tell they were. Washington was struggling to move the ball. Oregon was kind of moving it at will whenever they wanted. I know the
yeah,
score was close, but Oregon made the plays and they need to make them, and that was kind of that.
yeah. Oklahoma scraped by LSU. I did not
You,
watch that game, so
you. That's all it was.
yeah,
Both offenses were so toast. The only reason LSU was up late in this game, the only reason Oklahoma took the lead is because they LSU just busted the coverage and let this dude run not not somebody within 30 yards of him, just wide open, deep pass down the middle of the field, no one near him. Just kind of a microcosm of their year. Um,
yeah,
touchdown. So that John Mateer threw three picks in this game. It
jeez,
was a nasty, nasty game. Oklahoma's a
yeah,
really good defense, but that offense is gonna come back to bite them.
it's gonna hurt them.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not too sold on this team going into playoff season just because it's so bad on offense right now. They don't have a run game.
yeah,
Mateer forces bad throws. They have some struggling wide receivers. Line struggling. It's just if they didn't have a super elite defense, this team would have four losses right now.
yeah,
And LSU is just they're going to turn the corner, but this year was just such a disappointment that kind of felt like that was a perfect fitting into their year, the way they played this year. Michael Van Buren is not going to be the quarterback at LSU next year.
yeah,
So he struggled. The line struggled. The receivers can't catch. That's going to be a completely new team next year under Lane Kiffin. So
I don't doubt it.
this is kind of a nasty game, though.
Notre Dame handled business against Stanford as expected. Again, Notre Dame's on fraud watch. I've seen a bunch of talk about them uh, in Miami, who who should be replacing who, or if Notre Dame should have the upper hand against Miami, even though they lost to them. Miami does have kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say terrible losses because SMU and Louisville were ranked most of the season. But again, the ACC has been pretty weak. So
Yeah,
it's
there's
been really hard to judge them
it's
compared
going to
to
be
the other conferences.
there's a few hinge games that we'll get to a little later this weekend that I think we'll be telling for how the committee places. I think BYU is a big hinge game, and then the SEC championship's a big hinge game because those are potential two teams. If BYU wins that game, they're going to have to be in.
Yeah.
So that's somebody that's not in right now. That's another spot. And then Alabama, that's one of those ones too, where if they lose or get blown out by Georgia, it could be a very differing. That game is going to tell a ton on what they think because I do think if there's a possibility if Alabama loses by 14 plus to Georgia, which I don't think will happen, but if it did happen, they could get left out, which would be crazy. But there's a very real possibility of that happening. So they're kind of playing for their life again this weekend,
Yeah.
like they were last weekend, which brings us to Alabama Auburn, the Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
Um, I've never seen a team drop and fumble a football more in my entire life than Auburn in that game.
Do you see that
They
one
threw away that
drive?
game. They threw away that game five different times. I think they could have easily won that game. Their defense
Easily.
played well
Easily.
enough to win that game. You had star player fumbling the ball. You had your running backs couldn't catch a cold. Robbie Ashford. I'm not Robbie Ashford. Why am I blanking on his name? Ashton Daniels. Ashton Daniels was also throwing fireballs from 3 feet away. It's just you. It just seemed like they didn't really know what they were doing on offensively wise. It was such a struggle to get anything going. The only way they scored were broken plays. And at the end of the day, Alabama just made a few more plays to win the game. By throwing the ball. Ty Simpson made timely throws, which is what they do all year. They can't run the Alabama still can't run the ball. Jam Miller's going to be out for a while now. It looked like he was on crutches after the game. They're just I've seen it too many weeks in a row now to know that they just don't have a run game. So they're going to have to hinge on Ty Simpson. And when Ty Simpson plays good, they have a chance to beat anybody. But when he doesn't, Oklahoma happens, and South Carolina happens, and to an extent, Auburn happens. Um, you have to hope and pray he's on fire every game from now on, because every game you're playing for your life. There's no more. Oh, we dropped this one, we'll be all right. Um, he's got to play his best ball, and that would scare me as an Alabama fan because you've seen some times this year where he's struggled in some games. So especially when the defenses get ramped up, which is what he's about to see. So I'll be a little wary as an Alabama fan going into this weekend. They'll probably beat Georgia just because they always do. But looking past that, starting the playoff when you start having to play some of these teams, I would be a little nervous going into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that game was a rough game to watch, especially as an Auburn fan. I felt like they kept shooting themselves in the foot. Um, like especially that last drive where that fumble happened. I'm like, why are you not getting out of bounds? Like, did you see that he gets it and then he's trying to force
Yeah,
yardage upfield when you're under a minute to go in the game,
yeah.
when you can
Okay.
just go out of bounds, save time. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's just situational ball. And then they had a previous drive or two before that where they literally fumbled three times on that drive. Each of those fumbles went out of bounds, so they got the ball back, but then they had that costly interception that turned the ball
Yep.
over. So again, just Auburn shooting themselves in the foot, which I felt
Mhm.
like again, their defense played fairly well. They were rocking the crap out of Ty Simpson back there. Like that man got his brain rattled. I can't count how many times, but
He was
they,
getting
they were
smashed.
they were hitting him pretty hard.
Mhm.
But that sums up Auburn's season pretty much.
Yep.
And
They'll be new next year too. You have a lot of these teams that just had crappy seasons. They're going to be brand new next year, and I think they made a great hire. So
yeah,
it should be interesting. We also had Miami at Pittsburgh. I think that Pittsburgh win against Georgia Tech was a one-off. I also think Georgia Tech was kind of overrated,
Yeah.
to an extent. Miami just kind of pelted them this past weekend. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Miami knew they had to run up the score, so they kept trying to score. So
Yeah.
that's why the score looked like that. And Pittsburgh's just not a very good team. Their quarterback also went out halfway through the game, so that was also a big factor. Um, Pitt was kind of a pretender all year. Notre Dame blew them out.
Yeah.
Miami beat Notre Dame, so I mean, that one was kind of one of the easier ones to tell. One that wasn't easy to tell though was Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Um, it's kind of embarrassing for Tennessee, especially since Tennessee did not beat a Power Four team with a winning record this year,
Hmm.
which is kind of insane. They
Yeah.
every team they beat in the P4 had a losing record by a lot. So you kind of failed this season, Josh Allen. Now, I know you
Yeah.
going into the season going, oh, we got our quarterback in the middle of spring and he doesn't know anything. But the sad part is that wasn't the issue of the team. He actually looked fairly good. The offense looked good. The issue was the
Yeah.
defense this year.
Defense. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would what would be scaring me is the one thing you were worried about going into the year actually turned out to be good, and everything else kind of fell to shit around it. So you got to rebuild next year. They have a good recruiting class coming in. They just locked in today on National Signing Day. But Vanderbilt continues to look good, even though they're not going to be in the playoff. Because you got your two biggest games of the year, you kind of got blown out. The Texas game looked closer, but you were
Yeah.
dominated for three quarters. Alabama blew you out. And then you beat number 10 South Carolina and number 10 LSU, who we saw weren't that ranked that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those teams almost did a disservice to Vanderbilt, the same amount that Vanderbilt did to itself, not competing in those two. They're not winning those one of those games on the road. They need to win. They're making their case to get in. They're making their case for Pavia to be Heisman. I just don't think either one of those are going to happen.
Yeah.
The Big Ten quarterback is going to win. Who the winner of the Big Ten championship is going to be your Heisman, unless both of them play that crap. And I think that'll be that. Even though I personally think Jeremiah Love should win it because he's probably the best player in the country, respected to his team. But yeah, and then the late night ACC crap fest. Virginia beat Virginia Tech, and
Saw
then
that.
California beat SMU, opening the door for 7-5 Duke to make it to the ACC championship, which is what we all wanted to see. We want to
Exactly.
see
We
number
want to see
18
Duke
Virginia
win.
versus 7-5 Duke, who
Want to see
lost
Duke
to
win.
UConn.
Duke win. Nobody in the ACC gets in. It's
It's a
it's a
shame.
lovely sight to see.
Also, shout out to the Palmetto Bowl, which ended up being a better game than I probably thought it was. Um, but that was pretty sad for South Carolina.
Yeah.
It ended up being pretty bad. I'm Shane Beamer. It, he's definitely on the hot seat next year. I understand why he didn't get rid of him this year. Too many coaches are gone. If he puts in another stinker like this year, 4-8, he might be gone.
Yeah.
Especially since Norris is probably gone this year unless they throw an absolute bag. I could see Nick Harbor leaving. I could also see Dylan Stewart leaving. You lose one of those guys, it's going to be that much harder to be competitive unless you just go crazy in the portal, which I don't think they have the funds to do, especially since you're going to be competing against big boys in the portal. I know Georgia needs to go get some guys in the portal. Ohio State's going to have to fill a lot in the portal this year. So you're just going to have a ton of people you're competing with, and it's kind of an unfortunate position that South Carolina's in. I know Clemson won too, and Dabo is trying to convince everyone that he was just a few plays away from being a playoff team, which is kind of crazy. Um, but I don't think Clemson's in a very good position in terms of progressing in the future either, considering they're not recruiting the way they were um, ever since NIL started, and he just still refuses to use the portal. So you're just going to keep having years like this because the ACC is not good. They're going to be able to skate
Yeah.
through, but they're never going to be above. They're never going to be a 1-2 loss team. I don't think anymore. If they are and they play easy schedule, they open at LSU next year. That's not. I don't see that
No,
being a win.
yeah,
So you're especially with Lane Kiffin retooling that team this year, and then you're done with Kate Klubnik. So who's your quarterback? I'm expecting probably one or two of those receivers to hit the portal. So they're gonna have to backfill. They're gonna have to use the portal this year. I think that's what he's gonna realize. He's going to have to pony up some money, or it could be another year like they had this year at Clemson.
yeah. Well, that wraps up the recap of a great rivalry week, and we're going to head into a couple clips here. I have three clips, and then I have a couple calls that we can just talk about without any clips, just because either I couldn't find them or they're honestly pretty memorable plays from the weekend, so I don't need to run a clip for them. But anyways, our first clip is the Georgia Tech Georgia game. This is on a Georgia Tech drive. And this will be called a roughing the passer. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about at the end of the game. But anyways,
Oh, I have another one from the Georgia Tech game.
yeah, there's a couple of them I saw.
First play of the game, the intentional grounding they didn't call, or the third play of the game.
I didn't see that because I tuned in late. But anyways, this is the roughing the passer call here. So King gets rid of the ball and he gets a little shoulder pad love shove.
Yeah,
And he
I think that was
he
too.
he falls.
First off, that's a 300-pound man moving full speed. He
Yeah.
can't stop. Like there's nothing he can do there. That's
He's
about
getting
as
put
light
he's
as
getting pushed in the back too. Like if you
yeah.
look at it, he's getting
That's about
pushed in
as
the
light
back
as he
too.
can. It's about as
Yeah.
light as he can hit him, and it wasn't like
That
just
was a
blatantly
flop.
after he threw it. He threw it. He got through his follow through and got pushed. I can see why I threw it, but I really don't think
I
that's
don't know.
roughing.
It's not really rough. I
That's
mean, it's like a little
yeah. He did
shove, and
flop like look.
he's so like he.
He did sell it.
I'm like, bro, I know Haynes King. Haynes King is a tough dude. Like that was a hardcore flop.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was a good call. It was
No, I
definitely
actually have.
embellished by King.
Yeah. Did you
Um,
delete that tab already?
yeah.
The
What
Georgia
was
game?
the roughing
I
the
was just
passer
never mind.
one?
Yeah,
Or I meant
there's actually a play. So it was about the third play of the game. Um, Georgia Tech was in their own end zone, and Haynes King was getting dragged down on a sack, and he just kind of
yeah.
chunked it, and he was in the pocket. They didn't call intentional grounding because they said the running back was in the area, but he was in pass pro, so
Hmm.
he wasn't even going for a route.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that was probably the worst call I saw all game, being in attendance, along with
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
roughing the passer.
This next call was a first down call on what would be Texas A&M's last drive before Marcel Reed throws an interception. And this really had me question, yeah, this shit's rigged. They're trying to make, I guess, Texas A&M look better than what they are or whatnot. But I mean, Texas A&M eventually, like I said, with that interception, got what they deserved with getting this help from the refs. They called this a first down. The tight end has to reach that 35-yard line. I don't know if you can see in that bottom right here. He's got to reach that 35-yard line. The ball never even freaking it never, it doesn't even come close to it.
Yeah. What did they
And
call it on the field?
what they said is
Oh,
they said it was a first down on the field and they went to
okay.
review and they upheld it. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's one.
I don't
Those are the ones it's hard to tell. Yeah, because I understand it's not, but I can see how also the referee was like, well, crap, we don't have a clear and obvious angle there that shows he didn't
well,
make it
I
because
don't
there's
know
not
how
one like
angle
straight
right
down the
here.
line.
Like you can see the ball's behind him too because he's backing
Yeah.
up. So I don't know. That was a pretty bad call. That's he definitely did not get it. Like that like I've seen closer calls get called right than that. That was like pretty obvious and blatant to me. Um SEC refs been smoking crack all year, so
I'd love for them to
um,
do what the ACC's doing and go inside the
yeah,
booth,
yeah. I think
but
more
I think
conferences might
that would probably put the ref's life at risk
yeah,
if they
yeah.
did that. So
They don't have a head SEC office. They just have Vegas calling, you know.
Mhm.
They have Vegas calling. But anyways, this play from the Alabama Auburn game was called roughing the passer, which I agree on that call. But then they threw, or they didn't add on to, well, actually, they did add on to it. It didn't add on to the penalty yardage. They added on to targeting, which got this guy ejected,
Yeah.
which we've seen
Um,
a couple um, questionable targeting calls. I think that's been the most questionable one
yeah, because he didn't
this
crown. He didn't
year.
lead.
He didn't
The only
crown
thing
him. He didn't try leading with his helmet. I just feel like this. Hold up, where's that?
that's a
Um,
defenseless player. That's the only. I think that's the only reason they ended up throwing that. Because saying he's a defenseless, any motion to the head or neck, I think becomes like they
yeah,
look at it a little more. But I still he didn't hit him hard enough.
right
I didn't really
here.
think
This
to
is the best angle right here.
warrant heads
It's
up.
kind of
He hits him
off
on the
to the
side.
side. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
side of
I
the
think that's a
helmet.
bad call.
So.
I wouldn't
I
call hard.
even the official that like tunes into the game that they have on call said there wasn't really enough there to call
Yeah,
that targeting. I agree. I mean, it's football and you're wearing a fat helmet, like it's going to sometimes make
that's
contact with
not.
a guy. It didn't look like he had any ill intent behind that hit. So I
No,
just
it wasn't
felt like
leading with the crown either. Yeah, I think
that
that's a
was an unnecessary call to eject him on.
bad call. Bad call.
Um, Another call during that game I couldn't find the clip for, but it was towards the end of the game. Bama was driving, and I think it was on one they scored a touchdown on. They had a pass interference called on Auburn, which looked pretty questionable. It looked like pretty good defense. And what I will say is that when on Auburn's last drive, there was another pass interference call on Bama that gave him a first down that also looked pretty questionable. And at first, I was like, that first Auburn PI call, I was like, yeah, that's a bad call. But then they called it on Alabama, and I'm like, all right, well, if they're going to call it both ways, then I guess at least they're calling it both ways.
Yeah.
Um, do I agree that it's pass interference for those? No, not really, just because there didn't look to be too much. I mean, they said there was contact through the back, but even then it was pretty minimal.
Hmm.
But if they were calling it both ways, then they're calling it both ways, so I let it fly. And then I already had my opinion on this one just because I'm an Ohio State fan. I just kind of went your third person opinion. Did you see the so-called fumble or should have
Yeah.
been a touchback
Um,
or that
I
what are
I
your
thought, well, considering how they call that rule, um, how they govern it, how they call it, it should have been a touchback. And I don't really agree with the rule in general, but
yeah
how they call the rule, I do think it probably. But it didn't help that it was they called it on the field a touchdown because then it's harder to
yeah
overturn. But
yeah
I do think he was juggling it while he was out of bounds. Didn't
yeah
have full possession, so
yeah
um, yeah, that could have easily been a touchback. It, that's one of those that it's close to call. I think if they had called it a touchback on the field, they would have kept it as such. And
yeah
calling it a touchdown on the field, they would have kept it as such. I just think
yeah
they didn't have enough to overturn it either way.
yeah.
It's kind of just a
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to see that ball, that ball move in real time like that. Like, because it wasn't even really that serious of a bobble. It almost
yeah.
just looked like a readjustment of the hands. But anyways, yeah, my stomach dropped when they were like, "Oh, that could be a touchback." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "He's still got the ball in his hands." But so yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, I'm glad they called it a touchdown. Do I think it would have affected the game? No, I think Ohio State still would have pulled out with the win.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right, before we get into championship weekend, I know as you all have heard the craziness going on with college coaching. E has done a little background research on that, a lot more than what I've done. So he's going to go ahead and dive into his favorites, his likes and dislikes at new coaches in their new positions.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the craziest coaching carousels we've seen in a long time. I think there's a few schools who have nailed it, and there's a few schools who really struggled or maybe didn't get the guy they wanted. A lot of SEC turnover. I think one recently that I think I liked was Kentucky's hiring of Oregon's offense coordinator Will Stein. Kentucky's been a defensive, kind of just rush the ball for 2 yards in a cloud of dust every play team. And Will Stein's a quarterback guru, offensive guy coming in. I think that's going to be end up being a really good hire. I don't know how much he'll win in the first few years, but it's going to be a new look Kentucky team, which will be good for the fan base and good for the SEC too. I think Florida's hire was really good. I think the exact opposite of what Kentucky did. They needed somebody who could come in and get that defense honed in and help the offense. I think he's the next line of like defensive sounded Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, like coaches. And I think it's going to be a really good hire along with Auburn. Alex Golesh is a good coach. He does run the wide choice offense, which is what Tennessee ran. Um, they Tennessee's come down a little bit from it, a little more normal, but he's going to do that wide choice, which may scare off lower recruits, but I think it's going to be good for Auburn. It's better than what Hugh Freeze is running, so I think they'll be able to put some points on the board. Along with that, you had Arkansas hired. I'm not too fond. The offensive or the Arkansas fans aren't very fond of it either. They peacefully protested the other day. But I think he'll be better than what Pittman is, especially what Petrino is. So you have a lot of teams that are starting to uptick at the right time. James Franklin's already putting in work at Virginia Tech, and then his former place, Penn State. That's probably my biggest loser out of this whole cycle. You still don't have a coach. You went after Kalani Sitake at BYU. He said no. Matt Rule said no. Everybody you've tried has said no so far, and you got rid of a guy who was a consistent winner. So I think that was a really poor choice because now you're stuck. You may have to give the interim the job, who's all right, but he's not fit out who you want to be, and you're running low on time. You fired James Franklin to get ahead of the curve and start the coaching search before all these other teams did, and they've all hired before you did. So I think they're probably the biggest loser. Ole Miss had to hire Pete Golding. I think they did the right thing in the moment, but I don't really know if that's who they wanted to hire in the long run. We'll never know for sure. But they kind of just got stuck with Pete Golding, so we'll see how that goes. Um, and then I think Eric Morris going to Oklahoma State is going to be a good hire too. Coming from North Texas, um, Oklahoma State was one of those schools that Mike Gundy's been there for forever, and they've been really good, and you can win there. I think some of those Big 12 schools may start taking the Texas Tech model. They have some money
Yeah.
out there they could spend. So I mean, it's going to be really interesting next year. There's going to be so many new teams and new coaches. The transfer portal is going to be absolutely bonkers this year. But it'll be exciting. It's fun to follow to see all that. So you have, I mean, even not head coaches, you have coordinators. Brian Hartline
Yeah.
left for USF today. Texas A&M's offensive coordinator Colin Klein left to is going to go to Kansas State at the end of the year. So all these schools are going to have to backfill coordinators too, um, which is crazy to think about. Just a ton of moving of coaches for this season.
Yeah, I think this has been the craziest season at least I've witnessed with coach firings, especially at least in Power Four conference wise, like just the amount of firings there were and rehirings and drama on that side of things. I didn't realize that Matt Rule was in the conversation for Penn State. Penn State probably dodged a bullet there. I don't think Matt Rule is a good coach. He had his time at Baylor, um, and then he hasn't done crap with Nebraska. Like I don't know what they see. Like I don't. They were
Well,
just.
Matt Rule is a Penn State alumni. He's
Oh,
also best friends with the
okay.
AD. So
Oh,
um,
okay.
I think that was the initial thought of everybody when that initially got Jay Franklin got fired. But then Matt Rule kind of went straight downhill, and I think he was like, I don't know if I really want to take this job and leave Nebraska. They gave him a pay bump, which is kind of stupid because he
He
sucked
hasn't
this
done.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
But after not getting that. it's just kind of a trickle down effect of, okay, well, we can't get Matt Rule. Let's go look at some of these other guys. Let's go. I think they looked at Summerall. I think they looked at Summerall. He didn't want to go there. I think they looked at Golish. He turned it down pretty quick. Josh Heupel was linked in that conversation. He came out and said, "No, I'm not doing that." BYU's coach didn't want anything to do with it. Everyone seems to not really want anything to. There's a big thing about uh, Penn State fans thought for a while that if Alabama had lost to Auburn, they were going to get rid of DeBoer, and they were willing to go all in on Kalen DeBoer. But
Yeah.
that's not happening. Alabama's not
Yeah.
firing him this year, even if they lose in the playoff or this weekend. So yeah, they're getting to a point. They have I saw today with National Signing Day be today. They were like the 144th ranked class. They had like three people that signed today because James Franklin's just stealing all their recruits. Um, Probably picked the wrong guy to piss off by hiring him like that, firing him like that, especially since he's in within your radius of recruiting. So he's going and just taking all those guys and say, hey, come down to Virginia Tech. You see what it can be. I'm here now. Let's do it. Penn State's a dead program. They don't have anybody running it.
Yeah.
I was just there. Look at I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get it done there because they wouldn't let me do it. So I think Penn State's in a very bad position, and they're going to have to make a forced hire soon, and may not get somebody they want to get.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. I don't
They're
know, I
teetering
guess.
on becoming uh, which this sucks for the Big Ten too, because now past few years you know you're going to have Ohio State's going to be good. You knew Michigan was going to be good. You knew Oregon was going to be good, and then it was going to be Penn State has been good the past four. So those are your top four. Penn State's they're probably going to go
Yeah,
downhill
dropping
for a few
off.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to have a new team kind of come in that conversation. It looks
Yeah.
like USC's been recruiting really
USC.
well,
Yeah.
so hopefully they will. But
USC and
yeah,
then I think Iowa. I think
but
Iowa's getting a little.
I was just always going to be Iowa. I
Yeah,
don't. They'll
I
always
think they're
be
getting a
seven
little
four,
back
eight and
on
three.
track though. I mean Iowa had a run in the mid 2010s where they were constantly top five in the nation.
Yeah.
They were the
That I
just
don't think they'll be able to
for
do that again in the NIL era.
no.
It's
I
just
mean it's
how it
hard to
is.
be like yeah. I mean they probably don't have a ton of money. I don't know how much money's coming out of Iowa,
I
but
don't think it's very attractive of a destination for some of these guys too. They get a
I
certain type of player and they're okay with that, and
yeah.
they know that's how they need to play. But like Iowa, in terms of there's only a certain amount of maximization you can get out of being we're going to be as good as we can on defense and we're going to run the ball a ton and we'll throw it for 120 yards per game. Like there's only you can be good at that, but that only gets you to a certain level and they're okay knowing that because if they know if they try to okay, we want to air raid offense, they're not going to be they can't compete with these other schools doing that. So they found their lane on how to compete. It's just they're capped at a certain capacity on the elite elite talent they can get and the elite level of play they can
Yeah.
sustain.
We'll see how they end up panning out. I still have a little faith in them just because they
Yeah, they'll
competed.
never be bad. They'll
They'll
always be
be. Yeah,
good.
I mean they'll because they competed with Oregon. Um, competed with what I guess not as much. That USC game wasn't
I
as
just
close
don't
as
think
that Oregon
personally
game,
you're going to
but
go in year out and go, all right, after week two, you can say, all
yeah,
right, here's the teams that can win the Big Ten championship. I just don't think
yeah,
Iowa
I
is
was
one of
not.
those
Yeah,
consistently, because you have to be a top two team to do that, and I just that they're never going to be that.
yeah. But anyways, jumping into championship weekend, Friday slate. Troy, James Madison, North Texas, Tulane. Both of these schools, if James Madison wins, and then if either, obviously between Tulane and North Texas, there is that potential to have two group of five teams make the playoff with
Yeah.
if Duke wins. I haven't watched James Madison play. Obviously, they've been a solid program over the past couple years with Kirk Signetti being there, and then once he left, I guess
Bob
their
Chesney, who just took the
rehire came
UCLA
in.
job. So he's a good coach too. the thing with the Friday games is James Madison's favored by 23 and a half, so they should take care of business. Sunbelt's been pretty
Yeah.
bad this year. But with the James Madison game and your North Texas Tulane game, all three of those teams, their coaches are leaving. So
Yeah.
whoever can rally the troops and stay locked in the longest is the team that's gonna um the teams that are gonna be successful, especially with the North Texas Tulane game. I think those teams are about even. It's
Yeah.
just which team is really locked in the most. Their coach they know is leaving.
Yeah.
That's going to win the game. And James Madison, they should take care of business. If the sad reality we're getting to now is if James Madison wins, and whoever the winner of Tulane North Texas is, don't let Duke win. Duke wins, the ACC may not have a team in there, which would be very detrimental to the ACC. That'd be very bad. So,
Yeah.
the ACC, you're just praying Virginia takes care of business. And maybe James Madison loses somehow, but I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. Headed into Saturday, BYU Texas Tech. Um, I these teams already played each other prior, and I'm pretty sure Texas Tech won that
Texas
game,
Tech
right?
handled it, yeah.
Yeah.
BYU's running back was a little banged up in that game, so I'll have him back full strength. I think Texas Tech wins this game again, but I think it's a lot closer. Texas Tech just dominated them on the ground. Um, if you're the committee, you're hoping Texas Tech wins this game because if BYU wins it, it's your life's going to be hell.
Yeah.
It could get really interesting because they have to be in the playoff if they win. They're 11-1 Big 12
Yeah.
champion, and you're
Yeah.
not going to leave Texas Tech out either.
Tech. Yeah.
So that BYU does get left out though if Texas Tech wins. So this is a must win for BYU, which can that can bring something out of a team too. So I think it'll be a good game because there's always weird stuff that happens in this game too. Teams you think are going to win don't always win. It's at noon in Texas. So it'll definitely be a Texas Tech crowd, but they already played him at Texas Tech, so this will be more of a BYU crowd there. Um, I, I would say Texas Tech is going to win, but I do think it'll be a closer game than last time. Because last time felt like a blowout.
Yeah. My opinion, I think Texas Tech should is going to handle business unless the Big 12 committee is like whispering into Texas Tech's ear, "Hey, hey, we need another team in the playoff. Can you just lose this
Yeah,
one for us?"
yeah.
That's the only way I see BYU winning. But on to the 4 o'clock game, Georgia Alabama. I I want to say Georgia, like the line is or the spread's
I'm
2.5
going to
minus
say
one
Georgia
and a
every
half.
time.
I want to say Georgia every time, but like you said and like we've seen, I don't know why Bama always has Georgia's number. I'm hoping they can
It's
finally handle business, but it's
I
always
think
a
that
good game.
there's I have pros and cons with this game. There's some factors of it that make me want to lean Georgia, but at the end of the day, it's kind of on the Michigan Ohio State plane where maybe Ohio State broke the curse, so Georgia can get through it now too. But
Yeah,
it's just Alabama has this mental edge, even though Alabama's way better than Michigan this year. But Alabama has this mental edge on Georgia. However, I do think this is one of those years where they have a better shot at winning. In 2023, I would have told you the same thing when they played Jalen Milroe, but Milroe just had the best game of his career. And Carson, we didn't realize how flawed Carson Beck was until that game. Um, and they when they lost as an undefeated team and ended up missing the playoff with one loss that year. This year, I feel a little different just based on the fact they've already played. Kirby Smart's 3-0 in rematch games, one of those
yeah,
being against Alabama. So there's that factor coming in. I did see a stat today too. He's only given up every time he plays a rematch game, that team has only scored a touchdown in the game. So he figures out how to get stops. Georgia's defense is playing better. Ty Simpson also played his best game of the year against Georgia in Athens, and they won by 3. I
yeah,
really don't think they're going to start out the game going 9 for 9 on third down again. Now, if they do that, that'd be insane. I just really, really don't think that's almost mathematically possible for them to do. So, if you're even considering him playing a worse game, that's already playing into Georgia's hands. Plus, Gunner played terrible last week. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's got to play way better. But he
yeah,
also didn't play amazing in the Alabama game. He had drops. He had big drops. Um, they turned the ball over. So if you get a clean offensive performance out of Georgia, making the right reads, just making the right plays, running the ball a little better, do not turn it over, and Georgia's defense plays a little better, there is a path for them winning and covering. But at the same time, for some reason, Alabama always figures out how to come out and play these just perfect games against Georgia where their quarterback is on fire, defense comes out to play. So if I was a betting man, I'd throw money on Alabama because I have to see it to believe it. Same reason I would have put a few dollars on Michigan this year, just for the value, just because you got to see it to believe it. Now you saw it with Ohio State and you won it. But mental edge is a huge thing in sports, and I think Alabama just has it right now. Now, it's not saying Georgia can't do it because games are liable to switch like that. It's just it's hard for me, especially being a lifelong Georgia fan, to see that game and go, "Oh, they got them this time," because I've said that 5 times now. I feel like in the last 7 years, and they don't have them this time. So, while I really think this is one of their better shots at getting them, um, I think Alabama wins by three. Like
Uh,
27-24, like they always have in the SEC championship. It seems like they always squeak one out.
I think Georgia wins by 7. That's why I'm gonna go with the dogs. Next game, 8 p.m. game, Big Ten Championship, Indiana, Ohio State. I have
Mhm.
a feeling. Our first, I want to touch on this is an interesting spread. We got a flat -4 in favor of Ohio State. Um, I think this game is going to be kind of a replicated game of last year's IU Ohio State game. I think Ohio State should handle business. Um, I don't know, I've seen a lot of Indiana fans have definitely gotten pretty cocky over the past couple of years, but
Yeah.
I always enjoy that. But I think my Buckeyes at least are going to win this game outright. I feel like
Yeah.
hopefully. Do I know how much? The optimistic side of me wants to say 10. I want to say we win by 10.
Mhm.
But then the realistic side of me says we might pull this out by 3. So
Yeah, I have a vision on this game, which you're probably going to end up liking, but this is a very interesting. I don't know if I really have a tell on this game because besides the Texas game at the start of the year, this is by far the best team Ohio State has played by a wide margin. And since the Oregon game, this is by far the best team Indiana's played. So this is kind of two teams in the same scenario where they haven't really been tested in a while. Um, but I kind of see this game tracking as it's getting late in the third quarter at 17-17, somewhere in that area, and then Ohio State scores a touchdown, gets a turnover, scores another touchdown, wins like 31-17. So it looks like it's a big score margin, but it was one of those games like, oh, this felt
yeah,
close, and then I look at the scoreboard and Ohio State won by 14 points. I think they're just a better team. They'll pull away in the end. I do think though it'll be a close game for a while.
yeah,
I
I think
think
it will be too.
Mendoza and those wide receivers are going to stress the defense. Um, and Indiana's defense is good enough to get a few stops. Um, but I don't know if they'll be able to sustain that for 4 quarters, and unless injuries happen, crazy stuff happens. But I think Ohio State pulls away in the end. I think it's a 3 quarter sweat. Maybe starting in the late third quarter, fourth quarter, I think Ohio State kind of just pulls away. And you're like, oh well, that was a cool game, but Ohio State kind of just did what they did the whole year and just pulled away at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
So that's kind of my read on that.
Next game, talk of the town, Duke versus Virginia. I'll just go ahead and say I want Duke to win. I want Duke to
I have a
win
conspiracy
to
theory
backs
with
with
this
the
game.
whole.
I have a conspiracy theory with
What
this game.
what's your
You can
conspiracy
see it
theory?
right now. So think about it. Think with me here. Mid fourth quarter, the ball game's tied like 24-24, or Duke's up by three.
Yeah,
And there's a controversial call. Let's say Duke fumbles it, or there's a touchdown that's overruled. I think you see, oh, well, we have been getting replay reviews and broadcasting on TV, but it's malfunctioning this moment. We're not going to be able to tell you what's going on. They're going to have a broadcast malfunction on the biggest call of the game, and that is going to be an absolute rigged call for Virginia, called in by the ACC because you got to get an ACC team in. I think Duke is literally fighting against the entire ACC in this game. They're going to be Virginia calls galore because they have to get a team in. So it's going to be one of those games where you're like, what in the world is going on? I thought we could look inside the replay booth. No, it's malfunctioning right now. Of course it is because Virginia needs a call. Buffalo Wild Wings going to call in to put the sprinklers up on the game. Probably not that, but I do
Oh,
think they need Virginia. If you're in the AC office, you're going, please don't let Duke win because
yeah,
you don't even want the idea that they would push for Duke to get in, but you don't want the idea that Duke would have to miss and you wouldn't even
yeah,
have a team in, which would be embarrassing. Because
yeah,
Miami, that would be your biggest push, I guess. At that point, you would say, well, Miami has to get on over Notre Dame because they beat Notre Dame. So
yeah,
you're really if Duke wins, you become the biggest Miami voucher of all time, and you're just praying Virginia kind of gets it done, so you have that auto bid team in. But it would be interesting to watch. Shout out Trey Jones, he's going to this game on Saturday.
Oh, is
Probably
he?
$5 to get in. Oh, that says on ESPN tickets are as low as $38.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
not nearly as much as
That's
the
Ohio
the
State
Big
game?
Ten. Yeah, $568 to get in there.
Bro, I'm seeing on mine tickets as low as $641.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh my gosh, jeez, oh Pete's Big Ten. What are we?
Yeah,
Oh my.
it's gonna run you a little more to
I
get
think
into
I feel like that's
the Sun
partly
Belt
be,
Championship than
yeah,
the ACC. It's gonna cost you about $50 to get in the Sun Belt. Yeah, you bring come on down the ACC championship game. You can get in for a little cheaper, a
a little cheaper than
little cheaper.
that. Yeah, so it should be fun championship weekend. Um, However, for our What's the Call segment, I think this is officially the last full college episode of the year for college football. Obviously, we're going to work in college football, just talking points, especially following along with the playoffs, maybe bowl games if we get good matchups. Um, but we're going to start moving at least our What's the Call segment mainly towards college basketball, um, maybe some NBA, but I mean we'll
Looking to
probably
get
mainly
some
focus on college here.
yeah, looking to get some more guests and for
Yeah,
basketball too,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you'll get
100%.
a lot more ball knowledge takes in basketball. We'll be able to go deeper into breaking down some plays or stuff of that nature.
Yeah,
A lot more than football. Um, in terms of breaking the game down. So I'm excited to get into it. It's been a cool season to watch so far.
yeah, me too. And I think it'll be a great race, especially as we head into conference play towards the end of December into January. But yeah. But anyways, we appreciate.
Real quick before
Oh,
you get out of here though, give me what's your lock of the week, I guess, and what's an upset pick?
shit. I didn't want to do this because
Real quick,
right now
right
my
now, I'm
upset
putting you on the
picks,
spot.
I'm 6-6, bro. On my upset picks, I like being 500. Oh shit. Upset pick, upset pick, upset pick. I think that there's only like one to choose from.
I got
Um,
mine. I
I
take
I
Ohio State's going to cover. That's my lock of the week. Throw that on
that's
the
your luck.
parlay. And Alabama's going to win because they until I
That's your
see
luck.
Georgia win, I can't believe it. And in fact, I might throw some money on Alabama because I guess it's a win-win, you know. Georgia wins, they win. They lose, I get money.
I'm gonna go with this is not a responsible pick. I'm gonna go with BYU.
Who are you?
I think the Big 12 is gonna want to get two teams in. So I think just like the ACC is
Not
pulling
bad.
for Virginia to win, I think the Big
Yeah,
12 is pulling for BYU to win.
it's not a bad
Um,
pick.
so I think that's going to be an upset pick, and if that puts me under 500 for the year for upset picks, that's unfortunate. But I was really happy with my upset pick a couple weeks ago, the Pitt Georgia Tech game, because I was like, damn, Pitt absolutely
Destroyed them.
beat the
Yeah,
piss out of Georgia Tech. Um,
man.
but appreciate y'all for tuning in this week. Uh, like I said. we'll continue to try to spit episodes out. Do we know if they'll be weekly? Uh, Not sure about
No,
that,
no
but
guarantees.
we'll definitely try and continue to spit episodes out, and then again, getting deeper into basketball season, you'll see a lot more college basketball content mixed in with college football playoffs. Um,
Mhm.
have a great day, have a great week, enjoy championship weekend, and we'll catch y'all.
Yep.